Anti-tanking laws killed the NBA. Let's talk about why tanking is saving the NFL. First, some context. The NBA looked at teams losing on purpose, clutched its pearls, and passed a law against it. The NFL looked at the same exact thing and said, no, let them cook. One of these leagues still has fans with hope. Guess which one? Now, front offices hate tanking for one reason. Losing costs them ticket sales right now. This season, that's the real cost. I'm not going to pretend it isn't. But they have the math backwards. No one gives up on their team over one bad season. Fans give up when their team is bad forever, when there's no plan, no light, and no reason to think that next year's any different. A short tank protects the exact things those front offices are worried about. A long one destroys it. So that's the argument. Tanking is good when it's fast. You're bad for a year, maybe two. You turn that year into a franchise QB and you climb out before fans even finish being mad. There are two kinds of losing in football. There's the Houston Texans kind. Bad on purpose. Bad with a plan. Bad with an exit door. Then there's the New York Jets kind. No end in sight. And you renew your season tickets out of pure Stockholm Syndrome. Smart tanking is how you avoid becoming the Jets. And the NBA just made it illegal. So today, 3 NFL teams that tanked the right way and got paid for it fast. The NFL team that's doing it right now, and then the Browns, the one team that proves the NBA's whole plan is built on a bad assumption. First, the crime scene. Back in the day, the NBA lottery made sense. Finish with the worst record, you got a 25% shot with the number 1 pick. Second worst, 19.9. Third worst, 15.6. Simple. You were terrible, you got rewarded, you rebuild. The reward for hitting rock bottom was a ladder out. Then, Philadelphia happened. The Sixers tanked so shamelessly, they branded it Trust the Process, and lost on purpose for years to stack picks. And the NBA panicked. In 2017, they voted, and by 2019, it was live. Flatten the odds. Now, the 3 worst teams all share the same percent, 14% for the number 1 pick. And the worst team, if they get unlucky, they could fall all the way down to the 5th pick. Did it work? Did teams stop tanking? No, teams kept tanking. They just tanked worse. Now you could bottom out and completely get leapfrogged by another team. So, this past May, 2026, the NBA Board of Governors got together and decided the real problem was they hadn't gone far enough. And they approved this. The 3-2-1 lottery. It kicks in with a 2027 draft. And I need you to understand how insane this is. The NBA has a name for what it does to the 3 worst teams. They call it draft relegation. Their words, not mine. Finish with one of the 3 worst records and the league punishes you for it. So here are the odds. The 3 worst teams get a 5.4% shot at the number 1 pick. The teams that finish behind them in the standings, in other words, that had a better record, they get an 8.1% shot at the number 1 pick. The worse your record, the worse your odds. It is now better to finish as the 10th worst team than the worst team in the entire NBA. And here's the stat that should make every football fan's jaw hit the floor. So what does the worst team in the NBA actually get? Not the number 1 pick, not the top 5 pick. A quarter of the time, they pick 12th. They are 5 times more likely to pick 12th than first. And things are getting worse. They aren't finished. They're now restricting picks. No team could have the number 1 pick in back-to-back drafts. No team can have a top 5 pick 3 drafts in a row. So even if you get lucky, you're not allowed to get lucky again. The process isn't just discouraged anymore. It's banned by the rules. 25%, then 14, now 5.4. That's what the NBA has done to reward teams for hitting rock bottom. Now let me show you what happens in a league that still lets bad teams get better. That actually cares for fans who root for bad teams. Case 1, Houston Texans, the gold standard. Rewind, the Texans were a disaster. No talent, no direction, a roster gutted by years of bad decisions. They had one real asset, Deshaun Watson, a great quarterback burdened under controversy and legal problems, a ticking time bomb. So what did they do? They didn't cling on to him and pretend it was fine. They traded him. They cashed the bomb in for a pile of premium picks, and they bottomed all the way out. Then they executed. They took the best player available, cornerbacks Derek Stingley Jr. The next year, they used the number 2 pick on CJ Stroud, an instant franchise quarterback. And they weren't done. In that same draft, they used their extra picks from Deshaun Watson trade to trade back up to number 3 and draft the best edge rusher available, Will Anderson Jr. Bottoming out had also cleared their cap. So they spent it on Danielle Hunter, another number 1 pass rusher. 2 of them on the same defense, instant identity. Playoffs in year 1, playoffs ever since. And here's the number that ends the debate. From the day they traded Watson to the day they drafted Stroud, about 405 days. Just over a year. It's not a rebuild. It's a demolition and then a phoenix-like resurrection in the same year. Now put Houston in the NBA's new system. Under the 3-2-1 lottery, the worst team averages the 8th pick. There's no CJ Stroud at the 8th pick. There's no Will Anderson at the 8th pick. This is the team those new rules would punish the most. Houston did everything right, and the NBA would look at them and hand them a 25% shot at the 12th pick. Enjoy. Case 2, the Detroit Lions. Tanking as an identity. The Lions were always the definition of hopeless, historically miserable, a losing culture baked into the drywall of their locker room. So they blew it up the right way. They hired a culture-changing head coach and a real professional GM. They traded Matthew Stafford to the Rams, who that year went on to win a Super Bowl. Here's the underrated part. In the same deal, they bought low on Jared Goff and pocketed a haul of picks alongside him. Then they drafted well, every round, and they built a physical, nasty identity, brick by brick. It was slower than Houston. That's the point. It made them a real franchise instead of a lucky one. Detroit didn't win a raffle. They built a machine. Lions fans went from wearing paper bags to selling the building out every Sunday. Case 3. The New England Patriots. Proof it works even after the dynasty dies. When you lose the greatest quarterback of all time, the fall is brutal. The Patriots collapsed. They bottomed out. And then they drafted their guy, Drake May, at pick number 3. And here's what most fans get wrong. The next year, they were still bad. Give a rookie quarterback no talent around him, and you still have a bad team. That's not the tank failing. That's the tank still working, still building. So they kept executing. They fired their head coach and hired Mike Vrabel. And Vrabel is a proven head coach. He played linebacker in the league for 14 years for the New England Patriots. He was a coach of the year. He took a wild card Titans team all the way to the AFC Championship game. Along the way, they eliminated the Patriots from the playoffs and sent Tom Brady to Tampa Bay. And because they had been bad for 3 years, they walked into free agency with a war chest. They spent it building a real monster around May. They made the Super Bowl. They lost it, but the rebuild was done. From a dynasty's funeral to a Super Bowl team, because they were disciplined enough to be bad on purpose. Look at all 3. Each one bottomed out decisively. Each one turned a wreckage into a franchise quarterback. And each one got out fast. That's not losing. That's controlled demolition. And building comes down in one clean drop. And fans barely have to look away. Now, let me use my crystal ball and initiate Act 3. Because this one is happening in real time. The Miami Dolphins are bottoming out right now. And they're doing it correctly. They traded Jalen Waddle for assets, a good receiver, an explosive one. They cut bad contracts, including Tua, to clean up the books and free up real money for free agency. They brought in Malik Willis on the cheap, betting he flashes enough to matter. And if he does play well, they're still probably sitting on a top 2 pick. They trade that, get a whole draft's worth of capital. Every branch of that tree leads somewhere good. And that's what a real tank looks like. Prediction. Prophet's honor. The Dolphins are about 24 months away from being a strong team. That's faster than the NBA's new lottery will let a smart team rebuild. Miami will be good again before some 20-win NBA team gets its ping pong ball to bounce right. And if that team does get lucky, the league won't let them do it twice. Act 4, the Browns, and why the lottery fixes nothing. But here's the team that proves the whole thing, the Cleveland Browns. The Browns aren't bad because losing is rewarded. They want to win no matter what. They want to win so bad. The Browns are bad because of the process. And their story exposes exactly what the NBA got wrong. Rewind. The Browns actually had it. Baker led them to a playoff win, a real one, on the road, their first in generations. They had a young quarterback on a cheap rookie deal, a stacked roster, and a genuine future. Then Baker had one setback year. Banged up, playing hurt, bad injury luck, 1 year. And that's where they got greedy. They had a cheap quarterback, a pile of draft capital. All they had to do was run it back. Instead, they panicked. They shipped out 3 first-round picks and more to get Deshaun Watson. And then they handed him a fully guaranteed contract. The entire thing, guaranteed, no outs. Watson barely played in 2 years, drowned in legal problems, and left them with no quarterbacks and a demolished salary cap. Think about the alternative. Keep Baker on a cheap deal and use those picks to reload the offensive line and the weapons. It's a sustainable contender. Baker never gets a monster contract coming off that injured year. The picks replenish the roster. They didn't have a talent problem. They had a greed problem, a process problem. And that's the kill shot. Flatten the NFL's draft odds tomorrow. Do the exact thing the NBA just did. The Browns are still bad. Nothing changes for them because their problem was never the incentive to lose. The problem is that they are run badly. You can't legislate away incompetence. So who does the system actually hurt? Not the Browns. It hurts the Texans. It hurts the disciplined teams. The ones smart enough to bottom out on purpose, take their medicine, and climb out in a year or so. The NBA built an entire elaborate machine to punish tanking. It nuked the teams with a plan, and it completely missed the teams that are just broken. Here's the punchline. The flattened lottery assumes every bad team is bad on purpose. The Browns prove some teams are just bad. So the NBA punished the smart teams and did nothing about the broken ones. It trapped the smart ones in 12th pick purgatory. You can do everything right, stay bad for years, and bleed fans the entire time. Every bad NBA team is now stuck in the same hell that the Jets fans and the Browns fans live in. You will always be bad unless you get crazy lucky and the odds roll your way. And now the league has a rule saying you can't get lucky twice. That's not a rebuild. That's a prison sentence with a raffle ticket. Enjoy. Act 5, the blueprint and closing statements. So, if you're a GM, here's how you tank the right way. Number 1, look for an exit before you walk in. Strategize your tank. Sell assets that aren't going to be helpful, that are going to be too old after the tank is done. Number 2, be fast. 1, maybe 2. 5 years isn't a tank. It's personality. 3, convert, don't hold. Picks are currency, not trophies. The Texans spent theirs turning them into real superstars. 4, don't waste cap space. Bottoming out gives you clean books because you cut the talent off your roster and the money goes along with it. That money is fuel for the climb. Spend it the second you have your quarterback. 5, pass the Browns test. Don't get greedy. A tank is a scalpel, not a panic button. The second you abandon a plan that works to chase a shortcut, you're not tanking anymore. You're just becoming the Browns. And if you're still bad with the number 1 pick, you could trade that pick away for future picks. And if that doesn't work, you don't have a tanking problem. You have a you problem. That's the whole blueprint. Tanking isn't the disease. Tanking is the cure. One short, honest year of pain that hands your fans a franchise quarterback and a future. The NFL lets smart teams take the medicine and get better. The NBA outlawed the medicine, and now its bad teams just stay sick. All it did was make the misery more permanent. I'm just a guy with a spreadsheet who could see the future. Maybe I'm a little bit of a wizard. And the future is a Dolphins playoff game before the next NBA rebuild even gets off the ground. Thanks for watching. Subscribe. There's more to come.